This is Dominic Armantrout here, doing my Bloomberg-based project for Finance 451. I'm taking the adult beverage industry that Dr. Cresson posted on Moodle, and I'm going to try and do this very brief, short to the point, get my points across, and choosing whatever company I'm going to choose to write my sell-side report on. So here we're taking a look at these short-term solvencies. We know that current ratio is going to be current assets over current liabilities. Craft Brew Alliance here, for the most part, for every single year, can cover those current liabilities with their current assets. If we're going to subtract off these inventories here for quick ratio, for the most part, can't cover half in the beginning years here, and 2013, 2014 can't cover half, 2015 can cover half, 2016 can cover more than half, 2017 they can almost cover without inventories all of their current liabilities. Taking this cash ratio, appears they don't really like having a lot of cash on hand. Maybe they like investing that into other things. So probably here in this quick ratio, they've got a lot more receivables. They're owed a lot more money because a lot of that's not looking like cash to pay. Looks like they rely heavily on their inventory to pay for their current liabilities. Here with Boston, their current ratio, they do a well job of paying their current liabilities. Almost actually everybody except for Molson Coors can pay, except for 2015 year here. They're the only company here that doesn't really do a good job of making sure they can cover their current liabilities. Even in 2015, they could barely cover them when they could. But Boston, not too much of their current assets look like their inventories. As we take a look at this quick ratio, even in 2015 and 2016 without their inventories, they could still cover their liabilities. 2017, very close, not quite there, but they can almost cover them all. And their cash is pretty decent in comparison with these other companies as well. The only year where they couldn't even cover half was 2013, but for the most part, from 2014 to 2017, they can cover at least half, a good bit over. In 2016, they almost were able to cover all of their cash, almost all of their liabilities with cash. So that's good. They like to at least have a little cash on hand just in case something goes wrong. Constellation, like I said, they have no problems covering their current liabilities with their current assets. But we subtract off those inventories. Looks like a lot of that's inventories, and even subtracting off receivables, looking at just cash. Not a lot of cash on hand, pretty consistent with Craft Brew Alliance. Not a lot of cash. They don't like to carry too much cash, which is kind of scary from an investor standpoint if anything goes wrong. They're not as illiquid as, say, Boston Beer Co. They're very illiquid, which is nice. I mean, they're very liquid. They are illiquid. Constellation Brands and Craft Alliance are pretty illiquid. Boston Beer is more liquid, which is better to see here. And then Molson Coors, like I said, the only year they can cover is 2015. So clearly, even subtracting off inventories and subtracting off just doing cash, while they do have more cash on hand than, say, Craft Brew Alliance here, they still can't cover even without their cash. I mean, even with all of their current assets, they can't cover their current liabilities, which is very, very scary. Very skeptical in case something goes wrong here. Taking a look at their profit margin, their return on assets, and their return on common equity very shortly. They have a pretty decent profit margin. 2016 is very scary here, though, for all three of these categories. They're in the negative, which is not good. They weren't really able to, looks like, give common equity much of anything. They have bounced back, however, in 2017, which looks nice. But very inconsistent. Don't like that inconsistency. I'm a little skeptical of this company. Don't have a lot of cash on hand. They're not very consistent when it comes to their profit margins, their return on assets, or their return on common equity. It's a little scary. Looks like they're taking an increase here in the last 12 months as well, which is nice. However, it looks like for this profit margin, they might take a little hit, but consistent. Getting a little better consistency. However, 2016 is very scary. Not appealing at all. Taking a look at Boston Beer Co. Their profit margins have been inclining from 2013 to 2015, looking good. 2016 takes a little hit. 2017 to back on that upside. These projections might take a little hit, though, it looks like, but they're for the most part consistent, which is good. want that consistency. We want that promise here. It looks very promising with these profit margins. Looks like they're doing a pretty good job with this return on their assets. They do take some decline here. Decline again. They're back. They swing back up in 2017, which is nice. Looks like 2018, 2019, they're going to be utilizing those assets a little better as well. So return on common equity, they're consistent for the most part, staying around 20-ish, which is good and consistent. I like that. Like to see that. They take a hit here in 2016, which isn't good, but they are back on that upswing. It looks like at the end of 2018 might take a little dive, but 2019 is looking to bring it back up again. Pretty consistent, pretty close. Even if they do take a dive, they aren't taking too far of a hit. Staying consistent, staying close. With Constellation Brands here, profit margin, very good profit margin here in 2014. They take a major hit in 2015. Back on this upswing, though, it looks good. Looks like they're back on this climb, doing a little well. These projections look like they might take a hit. However, this is still a pretty solid number for profit margins. We'd like to see that. Return on assets and return on their common equity, they do a good job here in 2014 on both. Very good job, actually. They take a hit. Again, 2015, something happened clearly. They're trying to get these back up, getting them back up, getting them back up, getting them back up. Take a little hit here, looks like in these forecasts, but for the most part, their numbers are looking better clearly than in 2015, 2016, even in 2017, excuse me. 2018, they're doing fairly well, but it looks like 2019, 2020 might take a little hit here. Better than Craft Brew, though. Molson Coors, profit margins are declining. They take a major increase here, but I'm thinking what's driving this increase here is going to be this financial leverage. If we take a nice look at that, they go from 1.76 to a pretty large jump here to 2.25. That probably helped them get a little footing, but I don't like that they had to have more leverage to get this pretty number, because we go back down here. It's an outlier because they took more leverage, because these are pretty consistent. While it is declining, it is consistent with 12.85. Most of they're going to take a hit with the end of the 2018 projections. 2019 they'll increase a little bit, but not very consistent. I mean, they are pretty consistent except for this outlier, which looks like it's being driven by this financial leverage here. Return on assets and return on equities, they're okay. They're not terribly bad, but they're not where I'd like to see them. They're declining here, like I said. They get more leverage. They get that increase. After that leverage is gone, though, after that leverage is it's evening out here. They decrease from 2016. Looks like they're going to take a hit at the end of 2018 and 2019 as well. Consistent, fairly consistent. Not too far down, but they saw that they were decreasing. They took more leverage, got that increase. And this is pretty consistent with these as well. Nice little outlier again, though. Return on common equity, you can see they're decreasing. They take that leverage, of course. It's where this big jump comes in. They're able to get more money to get more return on this equity. They probably took more equity to gain more for it as well. So it looks like they utilized it well, very well, actually, for the most part, but not really getting consistency from them, which is a little scary. I'm very skeptical of that. Inconsistency. We'll go to this PE ratio and this price to book, which can also be considered the market to book ratio. It's decent. The price to earnings, it's price per share divided by earnings per share. It's not too bad price wise for what you're getting. But it is looking like it's on the incline in 2016. Takes a big jump. Again, assuming it's backed by this financial leverage jump. And then it's back down again. Pretty consistent, except for the outlier. This big outlier sticks out like a sore thumb, but these other outliers do as well. But if we take a look at the price to book ratio here, market book to book ratio, it's kind of low. Their market value compared to their book value is not all that great. Compared to some of these other companies, 2015 they were doing a better job. They're consistent at least, which is good, but it looks like in 2018 and 2019 they're actually going to be below. Their market value looks like it might be below their book value, which is kind of skeptical. Makes me kind of skeptical. Constellation Brands, they've done a pretty good job here of staying very consistent, actually, which is beautiful. It's very nice to see. So we know for our price relatively what we're going to get here. It's pretty close. It's pretty similar. They're staying consistent. They're staying good, on the right track. Price to book ratio, they're on an incline, so their market value looks like it's going up as compared to its book value, which is nice to see. 2019 might take a little hit, but it's pretty consistent for the most part as well. On an incline, looking good. 2018 here, looking good, looking real nice. For Boston, their price and earning, the PE ratio, uh, pretty consistent here for these 2 years. Takes a dive, stays relatively consistent. A little bit of an incline in the last 12 months, but after taking a little dive, they're good at leveling it out, staying consistent, which is nice. Keeping consistency, they're pretty good at keeping their consistency. Their price to book ratio, they were doing a good market to book, good market value compared to their book value. It does take a little hit here. Decline, back on this upswing, which is nice. Hopefully they can keep that path of that upswing. In comparison, they're doing a great job of being consistent. They do have a few marks here after 2014, but that's okay because it looks like they're back on this upswing here, which is nice to see. And then for Craft Brew Alliance, they're big price to earnings. Huge here in 2013. They're starting to get it under control, it looks like. But at the end of 2018, it looks like it might take a big upward swing. And then 2019, after 2018, takes a big downward swing. So inconsistent here, not able to keep this relatively the same. We're not sure what exactly we're getting for our price here and our earnings. So it's a little scary, a little skeptical. Their market to book value, they are pretty consistent for the most part at keeping their market value close to the same relative to the book value. While it's not the best that we've seen out of these companies, it is consistent, which is nice to see from an inconsistent company for the most part. But I'm going to go ahead and choose Boston Beer Co. to go ahead and analyze, and I've already analyzed these, but to go ahead and do my sell side report on. I would invest in it just for the most part. They're very consistent, which is good to see. They're able to cover their current liabilities fairly well. Profit margins are decent, maybe not phenomenal, but not terrible though either. They're doing a good job of keeping them consistent. Though, like I said, return on assets, they're consistent with what they're doing. Return on common equity, it stays consistent. It's back on that upswing. Price per earnings, market to book, they're just doing a very good job all around of being consistent. Something I like to see for sure, especially when investing your hard-earned money. So don't want any surprises. Boston Beer is definitely the best bet out of these 4 companies.